So one of the big mistakes we almost all make in allowing workplace conflict to take root and flourish is to go down the hall and talk to another colleague about another colleague. Often known as venting, commonly done in most every workplace, and what we don't recognize is the destruction that it can cause. And when I first learned about this, I thought back to an event early in my career. I was a newly ordained director of human resources. I'm in my mid-30s, I'm thinking I'm pretty good stuff, and I attend a quarterly meeting. One of the responsibilities for everyone at this quarterly meeting was to bring data, both projection data as well as historical data. And along with myself, there's the president, the vice president of operations, the chief financial officer, the top leaders in the company, and then the mid-level managers. So I'm in the middle of my presentation talking about numbers, and the accounting manager, I thought rather delightfully, pointed out I had not last quarter's data, but a year ago last quarter's data. I'm really embarrassed. I somewhat recovered, the meeting went on, obviously I survived. But what I failed to do after the meeting was go to Mark and have a conversation with him. No, I went down the hall to Sally. Hey Sally, you got a minute? Sally was the purchasing manager. She was also in the meeting, and Sally and I were pretty good friends. Sure, she says, come on in. Can you believe what happened? I mean, honestly, pointing it out in front of everybody, I think it would have gone unnoticed. She said, yeah, it should. It might have, I don't know. But I said to her, he's such a jerk, isn't he? I mean, he took great delight. She said, I know. I said, hasn't he done the same thing to you? So we spent the next probably 10 minutes bashing Mark. I left Sally's office. I did not go back to mine. I went out to the plant floor, and I saw the tool room manager, who happened to be Sally's husband, small shop, and I told him my story. And then I went over to maintenance, and it didn't end when I left work, because I went home and who complained to who? My husband, right? And that's one of the challenges, is we go home and we complain to the people in our personal lives about the people at work. And then we come back to work and complain about the people at home to the people at work. We're talking to the wrong people, right? We need to be able to have the skill and the courage to go to the right person. And I'm pretty convinced if I had gone to Mark immediately after the fact and not begun the rumor mill, we could have worked out the situation. I wouldn't have driven a wedge into our relationship. And we might even still, some years later, be speaking to one another. It's just an unfortunate fact. The good news is you're going to walk out of here today with some tools to prevent that. So we're going to raise your skill level. A common cause of workplace conflict and tension is performance measures that are in conflict. Now, performance measures are often seen down the line of command, right? Sales goals, for example. Most every salesperson, they have similar sales goals. People in accounting have similar goals, right? Closing the year end, those kinds of things. But what often is a disconnect is when there's different goals for different departments. So an organization we worked with a few years ago had two distinct divisions. The first, construction managers. The second, architects. No matter who was in the job, because there had been some turnover, but the problem continued, the architects and the construction managers consistently were not very nice to each other, let's just put it that way. Consistently struggled to get along. What we uncovered was part of the reason was performance measures. Construction folks were rewarded based on coming in on time and under budget, right? Good stuff, important stuff. Architects, on the other hand, were rewarded for their design and their innovation, and their boss, the head of that division, wanted to be public about their great work. So Architectural Digest, if they were written up in an article, if they got awards for innovation and design. Now, is there anything wrong with either goal? No. Beauty and innovation, important. Coming in on time and under budget, important. But that's where the disconnect was occurring. What the company eventually discovered through this investigation was that architects had no formal training in budgeting, or the construction managers, because they didn't know that, started lying to their colleagues about what was available in the budget because they knew architects were going to kind of blow it. So once we could both get them to the table and start at the very beginning of the process, introducing the architect to the cost structure and then talking about design and innovation at that time, it solved a big problem for them. So if you feel like you have a people problem, I would encourage you and look to see if you have a performance award or performance measure problem. Long time ago, there was a chef and his daughter. And the chef was known in his area far and wide for his ability to cook wonderful meals. His daughter was known in their area far and wide for her ability to complain. Know anybody like that? Well, one day when she was in her late teens, her dad took her by the hand because he'd just about had it, sat her in his kitchen on a stool and said, "Daughter, watch." And for once, she was pretty obedient. He got out 3 pots and he filled each pot with water and then put them on the stove. In the first pot, he put some potatoes. In the second pot, he put some eggs. And in the third pot, he put some coffee beans. He lit the burner under each pot, let the water come to a boil, let it boil for about 20 minutes, turned the burners off, and then gave his daughter 3 separate bowls and 3 separate spoons and said, "Daughter, go to each bowl and tell me what you see." Well, obviously, when she got to the bowl of potatoes, she took a few out, touched them with a spoon, and found they could be mashed easily. They were soft. The eggs, on the other hand, had gone in fragile, but they came out hard-boiled. The coffee beans, however, had transformed the water into something new, right? She'd ladled some coffee into the bowl, and the aroma brought a smile to her face. And she said, "Dad, I don't get it. What's the point?" He said, "Daughter, life is like the boiling water. All of us face situations and consequences that can cause us, like the potatoes, to become soft, like the eggs to become hard, or like the coffee beans to be transformed into something new. And when we face difficult situations, that's what we want to be able to do. So what I want to have you leave here today, ladies and gentlemen, is with some ideas that you can take back to your office and transform those difficult workplace situations into something new and better, so that you can create lasting, lifelong alliances. Thank you.